The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms.
Merry meet! Welcome to the first episode of 2026 and Season 5 of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I'm delighted to chat with Phoenix LeFae. Phoenix is a witch, author, and owner of a witchy shop called Milk and Honey in Sebastopol, California. She is trained in many witchcraft traditions and is initiated into the Reclaiming Tradition, the Avalon Druid Order, and Gardnerian Wicca. She offers readings, spell support to her students and clients, and she is a published author of several books, including her newest book called Spirit Magic by Llewellyn Worldwide, due out next week, January 8th. Welcome, Phoenix.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yeah, so how's your day going?
Going pretty good so far, just being lazy, which is nice.
Yay.
Yeah.
As we enter the new year, it's a lot.
Yes.
Well, great. I'm so happy you're here. And you were going to give us, I just want to double check, you wanted to give us a little invocation or blessing at the very end for our listeners?
Sure, that would be lovely.
Okay. I'll set aside a minute or two. Are you ready to get rolling here?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. I always start out with my guests. How did your spiritual journey with witchcraft or magic begin, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, that's it's so funny. I feel like I've told this story so many times. But I was raised without any religion. So when I hit a certain age in my teen years, I struggled. I was having a hard time and just existing, as a lot of teenagers do. And I just had this epiphany at 15 that maybe if I had been raised with a religion, the struggles would be easier. Like, maybe there would be like a God I could hand this trouble to, or some way to help process all of the complexity that I was going through. And so I sort of started my spiritual search at that point. I live in a very middle class, mostly white community. I grew up in Sonoma County, California. I still live there. So
I lived in Marin County and went to San Francisco Art Institute. So I'm
okay.
Bay Area person.
Yeah. But there's not a lot of religious choice.
Yeah.
It's like different flavors of Christianity. So I did explore different Christian churches, and I read a bunch of books about Buddhism and just different spiritual faiths. And this was in the mid 90s. So there was like a little peak in publishing about Wicca specifically, but witchcraft in general at that time. And I stumbled across a book about Wicca, and it talked about a goddess, and it talked about earth worship, and it just said all these things that felt like they were already the way I looked at the world. And so that was sort of it. Like I read everything I could. I attended a public ritual a couple of years later. I just devoured everything I could. And it's been over 30 years since then. And I'm still exploring, still learning, still doing my thing. And I'm really grateful that I had that expansive space to explore, because I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like it. Did you have any family members or mentors or that kind of helped you on your spiritual magical path?
Yeah, it's funny. Both of my parents are spiritual, like they're curious and they believe in something bigger than just, humanity.
Mm-hmm.
But neither of them are specifically like witchy. I feel like I read the Spiral Dance by Starhawk pretty early in
Oh, that's
my,
good. That's good.
yeah, and she's around the Bay Area, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I went to a public ritual that she led pretty early on, and I feel like she was a huge influence on the path that I took.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were trained in reclaiming
Yes.
tradition. So
Yes.
did you go to witch camp and
Oh
some
yeah.
other things?
Yeah, yeah. Still go to witch camp almost every year. I've been to different witch camps. I've gone to witch camp in Australia and witch camp in Texas and on the East Coast and on the West Coast. Yeah.
Oh,
Witch camp is awesome. If you haven't been, I highly recommend.
yeah. I haven't been, but some of my other podcast guests have talked about it. So, okay, you are coming out with a new book next
Yes.
week, and it's called Spirit Magic. So, can you tell us a bit about your book and what inspired you to write it, and how
Yeah.
the reader can work with your book?
Yeah. So Llewellyn, the publishing house, put out a series of books about different elemental magics, right?
Right,
So
right.
earth, air, fire, and water were all released, and I've had several books published through Llewellyn, and my editor and I were talking about like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next thing Phoenix is going to work on? And she was like, what if you wrote the spirit magic book for the Element series? And I was really excited by the prospect because I am a big lover of paradox. Like I love how some two things in opposition can be true. I love how there's not one answer. I love how everything and nothing. I just everything about paradox and liminality, and I just find it all really beautiful and intriguing and curious.
Hmm.
So the idea of writing a book specifically about this fifth element that is or is not part of modern witchcraft was really exciting to me, and I I totally nerded out. Being honest,
You dove right in.
I did. I did. And I read a lot of other people's writings about spirit and quintessence and dark matter. I mean, yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So, I mean, it's such a vast subject, and we'll kind of touch base on a lot of different things in our discussion. But how can you maybe define for our listeners spirit in the Wiccan pagan context, the
Yeah.
non-Christian religious type of thing?
Yeah. And I feel like I have to like give this like caveat with anything, right? Because if you ask four witches the same question, you're going to get at least five different answers.
Oh,
So
certainly. It's very subjective.
it's absolutely subjective, and it should be, right? Because it's each of ours individual spiritual path. So it really should be subjective. And so, the way I hold spirit and the way that a lot of my training and background is like, we have the four traditional elements that come to us really from ancient Greece, right? These four building blocks of life. And
Right.
then we have this sort of fifth ethereal thing, which is the spirit. And it's that animating force. It's the thing that binds all the other elements together. It's the thing that is the central focus of all of the other elements. And so it is the all, and it is nothing. It is the blackness of space, and it is literally my core, my center, right?
Hmm.
And I find it really funny. I always say that spirit is ineffable, this thing that we can't really describe, and yet I had to write a book to
I
describe
know.
it.
It's like, how do you describe spirit? It's
Right.
a challenge. I think it's probably pretty challenging. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many different ways to look at it,
Yeah.
so many different angles and layers. It's almost impossible to define, but we kind of all know, we have an understanding of it, but it's so vast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like, from a more pagan, witchy, Wiccan perspective, spirit is, I feel, much more vast than maybe in a traditional Christian concept, right? Spirit isn't divorced from me. Spirit isn't separate from me. Spirit is me. It's the animating force that, makes my body do the thing it does.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I am earth, I am fire, I am water, I am air, and all of the elements exist in me, but the thing that makes all of those things work is spirit.
And we look at the pentagram,
Hmm.
the symbol, and at the top is spirit, right? And
Yeah,
it's always kind of like, well, like why is it at the top? It's just always, to me, it seems like it should be at the center.
totally. I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah. Yeah. And in my training, especially in the reclaiming tradition, right? Because not all witchcraft traditions even acknowledge spirit. In my Gardnerian practice, we acknowledge and invoke the four elements. We don't acknowledge and invoke spirit. In reclaiming, we do acknowledge and invoke spirit. And so it feels like, it is the center when the direction we apply to spirit is center. And because
Mhm.
it is within all of us. And that's another part of the paradox of this magic, because
Yeah.
like right now I'm sitting in my office and there is the center of my room, but there's also the center of my house and there's the center that is me. And they all exist simultaneously and not one of them is wrong and not one of them is truth, like
Mhm.
this is why I nerd out. I love all of this stuff.
Well, getting back to your book, I mean, there's so much. I mean, it's like a manual for our listeners. It's a wonderful book full of knowledge and spells and rituals and ideas and concepts. And how do we look at your book? How did you kind of structure it, I guess, a little bit?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Yeah, it's structured to sort of give entry points, right? So the first little section is really about the history and the different ways spirit has been looked at throughout time. And I mentioned the word quintessence a moment ago, and uh, in the ancient world, quintessence was spirit. Like it was understood that there was this animating force in the world that we couldn't really see or understand. And now we call that dark matter, right? So it's like, it's still
Mm,
a thing. It's never
yeah.
changed. It's just, its label has evolved. So, history, again, I could go deep into
Yeah.
that with you, and then there's some little tips about how to work with the element of spirit. I go through how to work with spirit and magic and different herbs and botanicals and crystals and animals. Like these are all different ways to connect in with the energy of spirit and maybe deepen your understanding of that.
Hmm.
And then the third part of the book is all about hands-on, do the thing magic, which is I feel like is the most important part. There's
Right.
recipes and rituals and spells. There's practices for using your intuition. There's practices for drawing down spirit and, what we call in the reclaiming tradition, aspecting. There's
Mm.
just a whole bunch of
Hmm.
ways to approach this kind of complex subject matter.
Yeah. Well, that's great because a lot of our listeners are beginner witches or don't have a lot of background in paganism, but
Mm-hmm.
they're, spiritual and seeking. So I think anybody can read this wonderful book, right?
Oh,
And
totally.
and get and absorb the concepts and understand it. I mean, there's obviously so much history and folklore and myth surrounding spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just anyway, this book is wonderful because you can learn so much from a lot of different concepts.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I feel like, the format that I follow is also the same of the other four elements books in the series. So
Okay.
back back in the day when I was still really learning all of the fundamentals, I spent a year working with each element individually, right? So I did like a deep dive into air and fire and water and earth and
Mm,
spirit.
great.
Yeah, it's like, it takes time, but I feel like the most important magic takes time, and
Hmm.
I really do feel like this set of five books is like an amazing deep dive into foundational witchcraft practices.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. I mean, not all of us are advanced witches. Some of us are, seeking and want to learn. So this is a perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I myself really am drawn to earth, like the
Hmm.
element of earth and maybe air. I feel that each element has spirit within it. I mean,
Totally.
in Earth, the land, sea, and sky, it's all
Hmm.
encompassing on planet Earth.
Hmm.
So, in itself, that element contains spirit. And I was just curious if you can talk a little bit about, spirit within nature
Hmm.
and spirit within the elements and how it's all intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like the way I probably hold spirit, and I've had to kind of unpack my own beliefs around all of this while working on this book, is that there is this relationship with animism and spirit, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that everything has its own life force, everything has its own energy, and we have our own energies. Me as an individual, but also me as a human being, right? There's those levels of spirit, the human spirit, and I can also, like, my cat is flopped out on my desk here. My cat has a spirit, right?
Yeah.
The ivy plant in my on my bookshelf has a spirit, and that is the plant. That plant is an element earth, but it also has this animating force that I can relate to and connect to, and that is its spirit, right? So it's like an onion. We can continue to pull back the layers and dig into the elements and dig into the way that we connect with it and work with it. And I feel like spirit is this natural entryway into the other four
Mm.
traditional elements. It's
Mm.
recognizing that everything has an animating force, everything has a spirit, everything, and our spirit can connect to it and relate to it and understand it. And it's like a way of understanding without words.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever
Right.
just vibed out on a tree,
Oh, yes.
you know like, you're having a relationship with earth, you're having a relationship with tree, but it's your spirit talking to that spirit.
Right. There's
Yeah,
that spiritual connection.
absolutely.
And, spirit is associated with our souls, right? So
Yeah,
human souls, people often call it our spirit.
yeah, yeah,
And
right.
so there's that whole concept to
Yeah, and
talk
that
about.
it's our spiritual path, it's the path that we walk. It's and whether that is witchcraft or Buddhism or Taoism or Christianity, like whatever that path is that calls to you, it's the work of your spirit, and
Mhm.
hopefully it's uplifting you and leading you into more enlightenment and awareness, right? Like that, in my opinion, that should be the ultimate goal of spiritual work and
Hmm.
spirituality.
Yeah. Is
It's
evolution of our soul.
yeah, exactly.
We haven't even talked about gods and goddesses and
Yeah,
deities.
yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite gods, goddesses, deities to connect with and invoke from a spiritual perspective?
Yeah. I am a Ultimately, I am a polytheist.
Yeah.
I love
Hmm.
all the gods. I teach a lot of individual workshops about different gods. So this is like such a hard
Yeah.
question. Because, I could argue every single deity is a god of spirit, right?
Hmm.
But
Right.
I've been really thinking about this in relation to, like, if I had to pick one, like, which
Mhm.
goddess or which deity might I say is like the ultimate representation. And there is this mythology of the star goddess.
Hmm.
And the fairy tradition of witchcraft works with this goddess quite in depth. But the story of the star goddess is that the star goddess existed before the Big Bang. She is dark matter. She is the stretches of space, and she looked out upon herself in the dark mirror of space and saw her own reflection and fell in love with herself and made love to herself. And from that first orgasm was the Big Bang. And that is
Ah.
how everything was born. And so I feel like that goddess, that story is absolutely 100% the perfect representation of spirit.
All
Yeah.
inclusive, all
Yeah.
encompassing. The star goddess.
Yeah, absolutely. And to fall in love with yourself, to see your reflection and understand that it's beauty, like, oh, it's all the things. I love it.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I was trained as a Dianic Wiccan, and one of
Yeah.
the things in our rituals is that we call in the four directions and the watchtowers, and but then at the fifth, which is spirit, we call and invoke the goddess.
Hmm.
And I'm sure every tradition has its own method or way of calling or invoking spirit or deity. But what are some of the ways to invoke that fifth element in
Hmm.
ritual? I mean, I
Yeah.
you come from a reclaiming tradition background and Druidic order and Gardnerian Wicca, so maybe like kind of talk a little bit about how to invoke that fifth element in ritual.
Yeah. So it's interesting because the my Gardnerian training and my reclaiming training are almost like polar opposites in the way that they work and function. Gardnerian is, we follow a book, there's a structure, we do rituals very in the same way, and so there's this
Yeah.
liturgy that we follow, right? in reclaiming, every ritual is a new ritual, and there's a basic format, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen the same way every time. In fact,
Mm.
there's an emphasis on just allowing spirit to move through you and help you do your invocation. So you might not know what you're going to say to invoke anything until you step into the circle and allow that energy to move through you. So I feel like for invoking spirit, that's what's important, right? Like to step into the circle, to feel that energy of spirit move through you and allow yourself to say the thing that just feels like it needs to be said in that moment, and having trust that that is the energy of spirit coming through. And there's like some structure, some basic guidelines for that. Again, I connect spirit to the center. I
Yeah.
connect spirit to the cauldron as an elemental tool. So I connect spirit again with the star goddess and with space and with dark matter. And so I might really connect into what those things feel like within me and what that brings forward and what words I might want to say to call that energy into the circle or to honor that energy, because
Mm-hmm.
it's already in the circle.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I think is so funny and delightful about us modern witches is we're invoking earth, air, fire, and water, but they're already here. So
I
really we're
know.
just saying, hey, we love you and thanks for being here, right?
Yeah, it's so subjective, and a lot of different groups, different covens and traditions have their unique way of calling in spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important because there are so many ways to do it. There are so many
So many
layers.
ways. Yeah,
Yeah.
chanting, drumming, dancing. I mean, there's just
Hmm.
aspecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just so many ways of calling in spirit. What are some simple everyday witchcraft practices or spells that we can engage with spirit while we are living our very busy life? Are there some simple kind of everyday things that we can practices or ways to
Yeah.
connect with spirit?
I think it's important to give for everyone to take like a moment to tap out of whatever busyness they're caught up into. So like the thing that I do is I use my phone as a device to remind me, like pause, I set little reminders
Yeah,
for myself, take a breath,
good.
have some water, things like that. But I think it's important to just, even if it's in the middle of a busy, chaotic workday, to just give yourself a pause and a moment to connect in with something greater than yourself, even if that just means I don't have time to go and meditate today, so
Right.
I'm going to take a breath and recognize there is something greater than myself, that the world is full of magic, the world is full of spiritual energy, and all I have to do is pause to tap into that. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, especially folks who are newer practitioners. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do it right or do the right thing or
Or
say the
have the
right
perfect
thing.
altar.
Yes, exactly. And I think like it can be so simple. It can be so simple. We
Yes.
don't have to put all this pressure on the way our practices look. It's just remembering who we are, remembering we are
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, remembering that we are a part of this divine web, and just giving that moment. If you have 20 minutes to sit in that juicy energy, take the 20 minutes. But if you've got 20 seconds, take the 20 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I think the important part is having that breath and that moment every day.
Mm-hmm.
What it looks like doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, I work in an office situation every day, and
Mm-hmm.
I have some crystals next to my laptop and
Yeah.
monitor, and sometimes I pick it up and I hold it. I close my eyes, just for like 10 seconds or something,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
and then I kind of carry on. But it's that touch point to connect in
Mm-hmm.
with my spirit. We're all spiritual people in physical bodies. So I
Yep.
think it's really important. And I mean, it's kind of hard to do while you're driving,
Yeah.
maybe, but
Maybe a little dangerous.
yeah. But there's certainly easy ways to connect and look at spirit and appreciate the spiritual realm, even if
Yeah.
it's looking at a bird or a tree or flower or, you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
feeling the wind through our hair when we walk
Yep.
outside.
Yeah, and it's really easy. Like again, my little cat here is laid out on my desk. Looking at him, I'm just so overcome with how amazing he is to just exist, right? Occasionally, the neighbor kids will be laughing, playing in their backyard, and hearing that laughter just expands my heart, right? These are all just
Mm.
moments to
Mm-hmm.
pause and
Mm-hmm.
recognize how beautiful the world is, how magical the world is. And it doesn't have to be a deep, elaborate thing. It can
Right.
be. And
Right.
those moments are freaking awesome. Like that's,
Yeah.
I love rituals where all the lights are off and we're in flickering candlelight and incense is burning. But I also can just pat my cat's belly and remember how beautiful the world is and how
Mm-hmm.
magical my life is, you know?
Yeah. Or stare into the flames of a fire for a
Yeah,
while.
exactly.
So, what is Milk and Honey, real quick? I know you have this witchy store, but tell us a little bit about your store.
Yeah, Milk and Honey has been a part of our little town for 30 years.
Wow.
It's been
Wow.
under my stewardship for 10 years, but yeah, it's a staple to the community up here where I live in Northern California, and it's a joy to be able to hold a spiritual place for our community. And we sell candles and crystals and tarot cards and books and all the things you might imagine a spiritual shop to have. But we also have a lot of gatherings and classes, and we have readers and ways to connect with spirit in lots of different ways. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's ultimate blessing really in my life.
Oh, that's great. I imagine it's pretty busy as if you're managing people
Yeah.
and events and coordinating all that. So that's great that you have a witchy shop there.
Yeah, we're a hippie little town,
Yeah.
so it's a fun place to visit, and we're in the middle of wine country, so that also is
Yeah,
kind of
right.
fun. Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Before we get to your meditation or your visualization or blessing,
Yeah.
do you have any upcoming plans for the future, such as obviously you've got your spirit magic book coming out next week, but any events at Milk and Honey or classes, workshops?
Yeah. On Friday the 16th at Milk and Honey, we're gonna have a spirit workshop and party. So we're gonna do like a little magic around the element of spirit, and we'll have champagne and all of the element
Oh, that's
series
great.
books. Yeah, so that'll be fun. There's always classes going on. We're doing a 12-week tarot series starting in February. And I do an intro to magic class 2 or 3 times a year. So that's coming up soon too. And then later this year, I have a book about Dionysus coming out because
Hmm.
I am dedicated to Dionysus as one of my gods. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, cool. Great. And what is your website and social media so that our listeners can find out more about you and your books and all your magical offerings?
Yeah, I am Phoenix LeFae on all the things. LeFae is LeFae. Sometimes that tricks people a little bit, but yeah, you can find that's my website. That's all my social media handles everywhere. I try to keep it easy.
Great. Yeah. So I am gonna let you take it away with your whatever you're gonna do here for the last few 2 minutes.
Sure, yeah. So I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to touch base with the element of spirit. So just let yourself be as comfortable as you can wherever you are in the world right now. And if possible, have your feet flat on the floor. And if you want to close your eyes, that's wonderful. But at the very least, soften your gaze so that you maybe feel a little bit an altered space, a little bit not so mundane. And when you're in that place, I invite and encourage you to take just a few real deep breaths. We breathe all day long and don't even think about it. So when we can think about it, it's a luxury. It's a gift to our body. So just take some deep breaths. And spirit is connected to the center. So I invite everyone to find their center and place their hands there. And that might be on your belly, that might be at your navel, that might be at your heart. But where is your center? Where is the center that your spirit resides in your physical body? And let yourself just put your hands on that spot and feel what it is to be in your center. And feel what it is to be connected to your spirit through that location in your body. And as you hold that place and as you feel that relationship, Again, just take a few deep breaths into your center. And with each breath, feel that spirit, that center that is purely you. Feel it be engulfed with blessings. Feel it be engulfed with light. Feel your spirit being opened and raised up and electrified with your attention and your intention. And just hold that relationship and that connection for a moment. Hold that with your breath. And just know that this place, this magic is always here and accessible to you. And you can return to this feeling and this connection to your center and your spirit whenever you need it. And take one more breath and release your hands from that location. And if you closed your eyes or softened your eyes, allow your eyes to gently open and look around your space, recognizing that you are the center. You are spirit. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank
Oh,
you so
thanks.
much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I love that. It was very grounding, but expansive at the same time. So thank
Oh,
you.
lovely. My pleasure.
Well, thank you for being on the show, Phoenix, and inspiring us with spirit magic, your wonderful new book, and all your witchcraft magical offerings. I
Thank
wish you the
you.
best in all your endeavors coming up, and thanks to all our listeners, and Happy New Year to everybody. All right, well, blessed be, and until next time, I'm signing off. Bye bye.